Welcome to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. Like any good marriage, we will debate, evaluate, and sometimes quarrel about how privacy and security impact business in the 21st century.
Hi, Jody Daniels here. I'm the founder and CEO of Red Clover Advisors, a certified women's privacy consultancy. I'm a privacy consultant and certified informational privacy professional providing practical privacy advice to overwhelmed companies.
Hello, I'm Justin Daniels. I am a shareholder and corporate M&A and tech transaction lawyer at the law firm Baker Donaldson, advising companies in the deployment and scaling of technology. Since data is critical to every transaction, I help clients make informed business decisions while managing data privacy and cybersecurity risk. And when needed, I lead the legal data, cyber data breach response brigade.
And this episode is brought to you by Ding! Red Clover Advisors. We help companies to comply with data privacy laws and establish customer trust so that they can grow and nurture integrity. We work with companies in a variety of fields, including technology, e-commerce, professional services, and digital media. In short, we use data privacy to transform the way companies do business. Together, we're creating a future where there's greater trust between companies and consumers. To learn more and to check out our best-selling book, Data Reimagined, Building Trust One Bite at a Time, visit redcloveradvisors.com. You were very smirky, and I almost had the giggles again.
Listeners, I can't help her. Nothing that can be done.
You know, if my biggest problem is that I have a case of the giggles, I guess that's a good thing.
Well, I see.
That could be good. So today's episode is brought to you not by ChatGPT, Copilot, OpenAI, or fill in the blank AI, but we are going to have a really fun AI conversation.
Yes, we will.
So today we have Shoshana Rosenberg, who is Chief AI Governance and Privacy Officer, co-founder of Women in AI Governance, founder of SafePorter, and advisor at Logical AI Governance. She is a seasoned attorney with 16 plus years in international data protection law, a U.S. Navy veteran, and a passionate advocate for social entrepreneurship and inclusion. And we're so excited that you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to have the chance to talk to you both.
Amazing.
So, as you know, we always like to start out with having you tell us a little bit about your career journey to where you are today.
So I thought it might be good if I kept this pretty succinct. So if I go off the rails, you'll have to let me know. But I was a philosophy and a psychology major who then went into the Navy as a way to pay for the rest of my education and figure out where I was going next. And so I was an engineer in the Navy, and I was lucky enough to work in Sicily. And interestingly enough, I was an interior communications engineer. So I was actually working on motherboards and helping to man the AFN, the Armed Forces Network television and radio station. So that is the sort of engineer that I was in the Navy, and that was an exceptional experience. I immediately got out, finished school, and went toward law school. But along the way, I had taken a detour and done some international development work for almost a year and a half. And so that was an important shift for me and something that still informs the things I do. And it was where I became really passionate about human rights, which I did some focus on in my international law focused law degree. And then I went on to work for USAID, to work at law firms, and then to land at a global firm that has evolved and been acquired and now is part of a firm that continues to acquire other firms that works across so many disciplines. And I got to wear almost every hat. So I worked in M&A. I had employment law for 4 years. I've touched every component of this organization and the many things that we touch internationally and globally around these many business lines. So I've had a very exciting opportunity to really see a full array from contract law all the way into these other components. Alongside that, starting quite some time ago, I'm afraid, I built out the global privacy program for that original organization, which then became the larger one. And so I've moved then down from having built out the global program at WSP Global down back into WSP USA to focus on data strategy and some of the other components. So that is me so far. And certainly AI governance was something that I immediately took into because I had been working along the technology components for so long, and also building programs is probably my favorite thing.
Well, like many people, I love building privacy programs and also building, a variety of different types of governance and compliance. And so I kind of alluded at the beginning of our show, we were going to talk about AI today. And so thinking about AI governance, that can mean a lot of different things depending on who you ask. I'd love if you can help set the foundation here and in your mind, help us understand what is AI governance.
So I think this is it's the question of the hour, and it's the one that I'm very, very comfortable answering. So AI governance here is a means by which to navigate the several impacts the forces that are acting upon an organization at any given time in the AI ecosystem. So you have the client expectations, be they realistic or otherwise. You have the internal stakeholder expectations from employees to business managers and leads around what they want for innovation from that company, what they want from AI literacy, what they want from tooling, right? And you have that as a continually changing and evolving thing. You also have the regulations, which are going to be a little bit more foreseeable, as we know. In privacy, I always said the landscape is changing, but the horizon is clear. It's not so different, though. I think that we are still going to be living into the regulatory landscape for AI for quite some time. And then the technology is changing. So in all of these moving forces, I sort of alluded to it there with international development, but you need a very, very clear understanding of how to stay steady against these many forces. And the last component there is the organizational appetite for risk and innovation, which is going to continue to change alongside all of these. So AI governance is in fact both a means by which to get a lot closer to that business intelligence that every business has been talking about forever, and also to understand and keep a pace of these many components and the risks attendant. So I don't think it is just about understanding your AI vendor inventory, which is a really critical component. And I don't think it's just about understanding the tools that your employees want, that your security perimeter hardens around if you don't give them to them. I think it really is about a holistic approach to navigating the AI ecosystem and ensuring that the decision-making processes that you put in place are agile enough to move with the information that you need to proactively be soliciting from all components of that. Was that big
Shoshana,
enough?
yeah, no,
Was that meaty enough? That was all the
it is
meat.
for sure. And what I was going to say is, you mentioned, right, it's more than just knowing the tools and vendors. Can you provide perhaps an example? Because so many people focus and start there. I mean, it is a natural place. What do I have?
It's an absolute,
And
it's
who
a
are these
critical
people?
place to start. Yeah.
What would be an example of what you've described, how it's bigger than that? Just to put some color for people.
Of course. So there's one thing, right? So you want to run, I think, in parallel, and I think this leaks over into something we were going to talk about anyway, right? Which is where you're starting in terms of your use case inventory, both possible, which is a really important thing to look at internally and externally for an organization, right? The foreseeable array of engagements that you want to consider or could consider as an organization, so you can start to narrow down where you actually want to be, as well as um, categorizing your vendors into AI, non-AI, and then of course sort of it's on their roadmap or they have tools but we're not engaging with them. So beyond just that, the really critical point that I would suggest is that you understand the need for centralized intelligence within the organization with regard to AI, right? It's the Wild West. People are going to be giving training to other people because they've learned how to play with a tool and they want to show everyone in the organization, whether it's a sanctioned tool or not. You're going to have a lot of people wanting to build something or saying, I built something with public data that you should use. I'm sure you've heard all of these at your organizations at this point. And so it is really about building, I think, that centralized intelligence function and that willingness to understand the holistic nature of AI governance and to acknowledge, even gradually, not like in an emergency GDPR, if there's a fine coming, you better run. But understanding that you need to be proactive about soliciting this feedback and have a program that can adapt to it. So knowing why the people in your organization might be using the tools that they are, and wondering and helping to work to get them the functionalities that they're demanding, or explaining to them clearly why they can't have them. And then also working to understand what the client expectations are, the competitive marketplace, which I failed to mention prior, but that's one of the components. And also endeavoring to make sure that you have a way that you can get an actual intake from several different levels of the organization. So if we think about what we do as with regard to governments and other things, we always want the problems to rise up, right? And for us to be able to hear them. So you want a number of ways in which to hear from your stakeholders, and especially your internal stakeholders, about their needs, their concerns. So whether or not you're, doing it just as an intake form that allows you to say it's a question, a concern, it's a risk review, and developing that piece, or you're able to build more layers where you could perhaps have someone from every group who is designated as sort of the AI curious or AI savvy person for finance, for admin, for a business line, to have them come together in a delegation committee, and meet periodically so that you can see the things that are accumulating, or there are synergies or opportunities. And then, of course, to have an AI governance or AI oversight committee and a leadership council. So you have this sort of, I'm making sort of a line with my hands, but I sort of envision it as the spine of the thing, is that if you don't have a way to intake that information at many levels and have a bi-directional flow for it, then AI is going to be something that proliferates in corners, and you lose the opportunity to make more efficient your use of these vendor technologies, or of the innovation that your staff is clamoring to build, or actually has been given the remit to build.
That makes sense. Thank you. And I will dive more into many of that.
So, with the end in mind, where should companies begin their AI governance program?
Well, that was sort of, I think we sort of touched on that, right? Is that I think really the current use case, through the vendors and through understanding what your employees are doing or want to be doing, as well as looking at the potential use cases for your organization and understanding your organizational appetite there. But I think you really want to start with figuring out what cross-functional team is going to make up that AI oversight or governance committee. Because the truth is, this is not a compliance program, and it doesn't rest with whoever is charged in terms of title as the AI governance component, because they cannot drive all of those many components or be there to respond to them or make those decisions in a vacuum. The program itself also has to be monitored and evaluated and evolve as well. So there are a number of things here where the key part there is that governance committee who really sees the summaries of all of the other inputs and awareness that is coming through the organization around questions, concerns, requests for toolings, new tools for new uses, old tools for new uses, right? You have to have a body of people who are actually taking this into consideration and able to run that up the chain to whoever in leadership is addressing the strategy component.
So, let me be a little bit more specific and reformulate my question a little bit. In your experience, do you have it where companies say, hey, we're going to put together a committee and come up with a risk profile for our company and then evaluate use cases? Or is it more, hey, these are the use cases we're looking at. We're going to try to create a risk profile out of that? In my experience advising companies with AI, it's the use cases that tend to drive what they're doing, as opposed to creating the committee to come up with the company's risk profile to then evaluate use cases.
I'm sorry if you misunderstood, or if I said it in a way that wasn't clear.
Yeah.
You don't There are a couple of things that have to happen. First of all, the use cases that the company thinks that it wants today are
Mhm.
going to shift. And it is all pretty foreseeable, right? There's a finite number of different things that the technology can do, um, that can be applied in ways that can be transformative in ways that we can't quite anticipate. But where you're looking for predictions, decisions, the application of this is part of robotics, right? You can actually flesh out for that committee or that organization, depending on the size, you can flesh out both what's currently happening, take in from them what they anticipate wanting to use it for, and show them a great deal more of what the future might hold and what they might want to initially or at some later point say, we will never do that. We may someday do that. All I'm saying is that your sample use cases should exceed the boundaries of the current demand, because looking ahead and understanding the types of things that that industry is doing or may do is actually a way to start to evaluate at it from afar, the roadmap, because A is what they want to do exactly this minute. You can facilitate if you have a program in place that allows them to put the proper mitigations and controls in place. Um, but they should be looking further ahead, even just to understand what they think their current appetite is and to be able to see later how it shifts. That's all I'm saying. You absolutely want the current vendor use cases, and you absolutely want to know what they currently think they want to do by way of innovation. But even if you have a company that says, we want nothing to do with AI, we just want to be compliant, just give us a program that tells us we can do, and you've helped them to understand both the fact that it's not just a compliance program, and you help them to understand where they think that they are, it's still worth, I think, letting your clients know and anticipate where their industry could go, should go, or is going with regard to this, so that they aren't surprised later and you've already helped them lay out that roadmap of what comes and how to deal with it.
Makes sense.
Any other thoughts? No other thoughts? One of
He
the
shook,
things
he
that
shook his head, but it seemed to be an assent, so I'm not sure.
Oh, no, I think you answered my question. In my own personal experience with AI, you deal with people who are trying to just drink from a fire hose of what's going on today. And my view is I want to set up a framework of what does risk look like? What does your risk profile of your organization look like? Because obviously it'll evolve. And my view has always been, I think that informs how you evaluate use cases you have today and into the future, because different companies have different risk profiles for how they want to deploy AI.
So I want to say this, though. I don't think that AI is so many in privacy and compliance, and security. We certainly focus on risk, but this is so hand in hand with opportunity for organizations that I think that looking at it as a risk-based component alone is part of the problem. And so I really think that when people say, because I have many people come to me in different organizations and say, well, how do I sell the fact that we need AI governance? And the truth is, I don't know why I always imagine that I Love Lucy conveyor belt, right? But like, you need a system and a process that is in excess of what is currently there, right? This notion that privacy should just eat AI governance and be fine because privacy is not a full-time job is absolutely crazy. But this notion that what's already in place is sufficient, I think, is not right, but it doesn't mean that you need a full overhaul. At the same time, in order for the company to run at the things that it will suddenly realize or be asked to run at, right? Realize that it wants to or be asked to run at, you need a system in place that can consistently apply the current, all of these, the current appetite and controls to every opportunity that it has. So it's great that you're looking at the risk profile, and it's important because it helps them understand the vectors and the components that they need to have eyes on and have monitoring on throughout the organization. But I do think you need to start to put the conveyor belt in place in terms of what are our current risk thresholds for evaluation? What do we do with those different risk thresholds? And how do we inform them and allow them to adapt, right? So that you have that throughput to allow the business to keep moving forward regardless of how things shift. And the other piece there is that understanding that the first chatbot that you apply to your systems or to something that's client or consumer facing is going to be something that is a much higher risk than a year from now when you've deployed 6 chatbots and you fully understand the mitigations and contingency plans that you're going to put in place. But those risk thresholds will change, and that is something that team has to be able to work with. So you're being asked to come in and look at the risk profile for the organization. What they have to do with that risk profile gets a little deeper into the processes they're going to put in place. And all I'm saying is those processes must be adaptable in excess of what companies are currently used to.
one of the challenges, I think, and you alluded to this a little bit, privacy people are sometimes handed this AI thing, go solve and figure it out. And you have a lot of companies who are trying to put in place those steering committees that we've been talking about. And then it's like analysis paralysis. It just doesn't go anywhere. And we're just going to keep talking and talking and trying to decide, and no one wants to own. What do you say to those professionals or companies where you have people who are trying to do the right thing and they can't quite get the rest of the organization to kind of move alongside them? What have you seen to help companies break through that challenge?
I think it start in many organizations, it starts when the board starts to worry. Because it's a little bit like, so one of the funny things, I'm going to step slightly aside, which is to say, people say like, oh, our privacy people are the best people for it. And then a lot of times, because we have this human rights basis and there's an analysis of risk, we are. But also the OG privacy people who've been here for a long time, they're scrappy and they know how to fight for something that other people don't see as necessary right now, right? And so there is an element of saying you must be an advocate. But the truth is, when people say look for, the old thing of look for the helpers, we so often think of privacy people, but for people looking to imprint AI governance, you will find in leadership throughout these organizations that if you get to the people who are actually touching the clients or the consumers or who are taking on that feedback, they want it in place too, because they want the innovation and opportunity component of what AI governance can bring. So I think that you do have helpers within the organization, and getting to the right team of interdisciplinary cross-functional people who are also hearing their employees clamor for AI literacy, hearing people clamor for innovation inside and outside the organization, you will find that they will support you. Not only that, but they are part of the reason that the strategy will unfold, not just for the AI governance point, but for the innovation. So those two go hand in hand. You have a part of the business that will try to run with this and a part of the business that will help to facilitate it. And so I would suggest that it may not be something that you immediately get the top level of leadership to acknowledge as, sort of put a budget to this and let's really allocate everything we have. But as that sort of higher level, the next level down is dealing with all of the issues, concerns, security components that come into play, I think you do have people within your organization that you can join forces with to make sure that that falls into place to facilitate what they're going to want to do.
I really like that you emphasized finding the people with the opportunity, because you have business people and marketing people and those trying to drive innovation who want these projects, and then you have others who are concerned about some of the risks or the notice or just the perception of what is actually happening. And I think that's a great place, and I've seen successful where then companies are able to bring those pieces together.
But Justin, you also said earlier when we were talking pre-call, you said that you're playing with the AI. And that is one other thing that I would say, get your leadership on a call and give them a demo with public information about how easy it is to build a GPT for yourself, to have a way to consult one pre-made, self-made GPT that deals with one particular topic. And then think about how likely it is that your employees are using your company's information to do this unauthorizedly, because it is that quick, that easy, and potentially that useful to them. And then figure out how you're going to bridge that gap, because that will it'll excite them, it'll get them thinking, it'll mean that they've had at least one engagement with the how simple and accessible this is, and it will get them going in terms of either risk or opportunity, and either one is going to help propel that forward.
It's a really great idea. Thanks for sharing.
That's good. My next AI dinner won't be with in-house counsel. It'll be with board members.
All right.
So a question that Jody and I get a lot, and we'd love your perspective, is what kind of types of tools or technology or methods have you seen in companies to kind of try to manage these AI programs? Anything caught your fancy?
So there's some exciting ones being built that I'm aware of, but I don't think they're here yet, right? We know we know the pain of building tech, or of seeing or dealing with built technology that wasn't ready for prime time, that then you have to hire people to get trained on how to use, to then train your business on how to use it and keep holding its hand forever. So the technology, I'm going to shift the question to say I haven't seen anything that can rise to the occasion at the moment. But what we're really, really looking at and looking for as a landscape, I think, is the means by which to turn continuous monitoring into business intelligence that actually facilitates not only changing our decision-making processes as we evolve as organizations, but also reaching into different components that exceed the AI governance boundaries to leverage that as well. So once an organization understands how to adapt to feedback and adapt to changing terrain, it is more adept and able to do so. The great part is AI is the perfect companion in this. And when we get the right company that has built the right tools, I think you might see something really spectacular. Now, another thing, because he said security, that is key there, though, is that knowing that even if you put all of your, so like you, when we think about certain tools that go across an entire enterprise, right? A federated model is a comfort, but it is still a model and it is still something that can be accessed by threat actors, right? And so when you put your eggs in one basket, that is the one thing that I would urge us all to consider, is that all of that organizational intelligence, be it with AI deployed across many, many tools in your organization in a large federated model, or if there are people out there listening who are building the tools to facilitate AI governance, is that this huge amount of data about the organization, the way that it shifts, the way that it adapts, the forces acting upon it, is a gold mine for a threat actor, and it's something that has to be really considered in terms of making sure that you have as many gaps and protections in place as possible.
Now, as you know, we ask everyone, what is your best personal privacy or AI, because we're talking about that too, tip that you might give someone at a party?
Supposed to have something ready for this one, and I'm not sure that I do. I'll be, you know what? I'm going to say this for privacy people right now, even if you don't want to take on AI governance, I think my tip would be that you shouldn't be afraid of, and you should move gradually and at your own pace toward a greater comfort with technology and understanding exactly how systems are built, how they deal with information, even if you don't get into the coding aspect. I think it is a key way to make sure that your privacy stance is well informed and that you are navigating and meeting the landscape to come.
Very well.
So, when you are not practicing privacy and advising on AI, what do you like to do for fun?
Graphic design.
Ooh, what kind of graphic design?
Uh, I do a lot of graphic design things for the many businesses that I help and deal with in my own capacity, right? So whether it's SafePorter or Women in AI Governance or Logical AI Governance, I build logos and I really enjoy it. It sort of lets me think about all the other things. So it's a creative means by which I'm still at the beck and call at 10 o'clock at night of whatever else needs me. But if I can distract myself a little bit of color and energy, it's always a nice thing.
So I hope it's okay to ask there, do you do it all freehand using
No, no,
kind of
no.
existing tools or AI tools as well?
I don't like to work with AI because I'm doing these things for fun, right? Color schemes and things like that. So I'm going to plug it. I mean, everybody knows. I think the young woman who invented Canva did the smartest thing and the best thing anybody's done in so long. So Canva is definitely the place that I like to play.
I played yesterday in Canva. I was so proud of my little. Now I did use AI. I entered in what I was looking for, changed it a few times, and I was having a lot of fun.
Really?
Oh
No,
yeah,
no.
I was so proud of myself. I turned me into a graphic designer. But yes, you're looking at me strange.
Yes, because I'm going to ask, are you looking
I
to
gave credit.
are you looking to commercialize that? Because then you get into the whole copyright and intellectual property issues around that.
I gave
Yeah,
credit.
I get it.
Now, Shoshana, if people would like to learn more about yourself, SafePorter, Logical AI, or Women in AI Governance, where should they go?
If you want to get to know more about me, you're going to have to ask me. But if you logicalagovernance.com is a very cool program. SafePorter is a very important thing. I think as a privacy community, we've too long said where it comes to engagement feedback, we say, oh, that doesn't look like anything to me. that's not personal data, is it? Whereas it is. And so SafePorter has helped with both DEI and engagement feedback to make sure that privacy and privacy rights are maintained. So that's on the safeportersecure.com website. And Women in AI Governance is going to soon be, give us a couple of weeks at www.wiaig.com. And we have a lot of exciting things coming up for our members and to really support that community and its allies, which are a very welcome group, in making sure that we're breaking down the silos and doing the knowledge sharing that we need to around AI governance, because it doesn't just impact our organizations and the individuals who are impacted by those. It actually has a horizontal and vertical impact well beyond to our societies.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that you have today on AI governance. And we are so grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's lovely to see you.
Thanks for listening to the She Said Privacy, He Said Security podcast. If you haven't already, be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes and check us out on LinkedIn. See you next time.